sometimes when we deal with other exchanges, we'll complain about something. They'll basically say, "Suck it up," and
Mm-hmm.
and we'll work around it. But we're sort of like, I don't know, like I kind of think this is like losing you a lot of business. Like, you don't maybe want to fix this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it might be little, but it's big to the people who are actually using the
Yeah,
platform.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, yeah, just so many, and obviously some big things, but it's just so many like little ease of use things, um, where exchanges seem all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Just to give you guys a heads up, I pushed the live button. I didn't want to delay any longer, but
Oh yeah, no, it's
yeah,
okay.
it pulled a sneaky on
All
you
good.
guys. Yeah, we are joined today by Ace and Mr. Sam from FTX.com. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing well, excited to be here.
Excited to have you. From what I understand, it's like 11 at night over there. You never sleep. Dude, what?
Yep, I take naps next to my desk sometimes, but try not to be too far away from work at any point. So
Yeah, and Ace, you're doing well, brother?
Yeah, man, I was up early. I woke up like several times. I'm like, all right, I gotta be ready for this.
Dude, me too, man. It was like 6 in the morning, wake up. 7 in the morning, wake up.
Yeah, same.
It's like I didn't want
yep.
this. It's like when you have an exam early morning and you don't want to miss it, so you just end up not sleeping the entire night because it's the most
Oh
important thing
yeah,
you have all week. But yeah, this is what this call is to me, Sam. So thank you first of all for taking the time to come join us.
of course.
I know a lot of people are excited about your platform. There's been a lot of chatter on Twitter, across multiple social medias. I don't even know exactly where to start. What we were just talking about before we went into the call is like I feel that you guys are really taking the time to listen and to take people's opinions at heart. And is that something that you've always figured was important, or did you learn that from another business? Like,
Yeah,
how,
so yeah, it's a good question, and thank you for saying that. And I think that like part of that, just in general, is something that's always seemed important to me. Like, I've always hated it when I get in an argument with someone and I bring up like what I feel is like a lot of details that are really important, and they try and stay on the big picture. I'm like, look, the big picture is important, but these details they matter too, and like it's sort of like some acknowledgement of that. Um, I sometimes catch myself being on the other side and like, oh, sorry, dude, like this must be pretty frustrating for you. But the specific thing is that my background is in trading. I was trading on Wall Street before this, and then trading for a few years in the crypto markets. And there's just so many things, so many pain points that we had with all the exchanges. So many things that would be difficult or frustrating or annoying, and seemed like easy to fix. And we'd sort of bring it up to them, and we'd write sometimes these long white papers of like, here are 50 changes we'd make. We think these aren't that hard. We think they'd make your platform substantially better, and they just like wouldn't really give a fuck. They just sort of be like, oh wow, that's a lot of work. I'm gonna have to read this document. And as a user, I mean, we experience it, but I'm sure all of y'all have as well, just these little annoyances that make platforms just worse. And so sort of being on the other side of that now, like, I mean, first of all, I just think there's no point in launching FTX if I'm gonna half-ass it. Like it's, if I really want to go for this, like, I should try and do a good job and really care about it. But also, it just like pains me when I hear a customer bring up something. I'm like, oh God, I can't believe we make you sit through that. Like that really annoyed me when I had to sit through that with other exchanges. Like, let me go talk to one of our devs and see if we can do something about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that stuck out to me was just like looking up your exchange. I was like, oh man, that's really cool that he used to be a trader and he had a really good, decent background with that. So it's really nice to see somebody that actually being a trader and launching something versus somebody that just went to school is and out here to make more money rather than a community base.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And and it's something special. So hats off to you, dude. How old are you, by the way?
Thanks. I'm 27.
You young cat, you.
There you
I
go.
know.
It's funny. Most people only start to figure out what we were just talking about in their late 40s or 50s. So hats off to you, man.
Did you go to
Yeah,
school
well,
for like finance or anything like that?
nah, physics. I mean, technically physics. It was is I sort of stopped taking physics halfway through. I realized I didn't want to be a physicist really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That it's just I was growing up and I thought it'd be really cool, like, oh yeah, like Einstein and stuff. And
Yeah.
I started doing it. And I'm like, wait, actually, this isn't really what I enjoy. Like, I don't like this field that much. It's fine, but it's not my passion. But the other thing is, it's super hard to go to school to train to be a trader because none of this shit's public. Like, it's not like you
Exactly.
take the like how to do positive trades class because if they taught that class, the trades wouldn't be good anymore. I mean,
Yeah,
they just go do the trades themselves. So it's just super hard to get good public material on this stuff.
that's why I like it. You know, it's
Yeah,
something you learn by yourself, and I don't know.
yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's always appealed to me that self teaching aspect. But it's kind of like going to a wealth investment manager or something, and they tell you where to place your money, yet they don't have any investments themselves, type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the more you look at it, the more and more fucked places that are like sort of middlemen that aren't incentivized for you to do well are. And you have all these wealth managers and you just like I don't know, there's this light bulb that went off one day and it's like obvious. I should have realized this the whole time. But I've been trading, so the context is I've been trading a lot of their products. I was trading ETFs on Wall Street before this, which has sort of overtaken a lot of the wealth management scene. Everything that used to be something else now you just stick it in an ETF.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept seeing like these ETFs making these boneheaded decisions. And I'd be like, why did they make this decision? This just makes it a worse product. And it just doesn't like there's no advantage to it. And like eventually someone's just like, well, obviously they did this, like they're fucking lazy. Like this was the easy way to do it. It would have taken an extra hour to figure out how to get this right. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but it would have saved, there's a $10 billion fund and it would have, saved it 10 bips a year. Like that's $10 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, but it's not their money. It's the client's money, Sam. Like, why would they care? And it's just like, oh, right. I guess I should have realized that. And ever
Mm-hmm.
since then, it's like, wow, like you sort of look all over the place at where these sort of intermediary wealth management places and see like they're really like not incentivized to create the best products. Like they're incentivized to they have these weird captive customers because they go to their local bank branch
Mm-hmm.
and you just need to do a job that's not so shitty the person will bother moving to a different branch to find a different, asset manager.
Hmm. Yeah, when you said not bothering to make the best product, kind of BitMEX popped in my head for a second.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it's a really interesting case too because I think you look at a lot of these exchanges and you look at the people, sort of the teams running it, and you're like, wow, that's a shit show. And sort of the closer you get to them, the more you're like, that's just not functional. Like that's they
mhm.
can't. I'm not surprised anymore that their products make no sense. Like I've seen the process, but I think some of them have really sharp people, and
Mhm.
say what you will, but the BitMEX, I mean, their founding team, they're really sharp guys
Mhm.
and I've actually got most of the employees that I've talked to are just really smart people and sort of thoughtful. And like, it's not like they can't. I think it's just you see this thing, this like malaise of these big, big, big companies where it just like they, sort of slow down and they're like, yeah, we got our product. It's good enough. We've got our customers. Like, you want to rock the boat with something new, really? Like, can't we just keep doing this?
Yeah, they're making profit, so not much to change. Take more risk.
Yeah.
Do you think that is FTX? Are you taking this in the direction that you want to be the number one for all trading
Yeah.
in the space?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think like obviously if you told me right now you'll be number two, I'd be like, all right, like it's not number one, but like I'm pretty happy.
Hmm.
But like definitely I definitely want to be number one and like and even bigger than that. I mean, there's
Hmm.
not it's not like we, yay, we're number one by 3%, like time to stop working harder or anything like that. Like, there's sort of always more room to grow. And so I think
Hmm.
that like, it'll take time obviously, but like, I think really the sky's the limit.
Fair enough. And down the road, when you are number one, do you think that you'll be able to solve some of the issues that the number one exchange is seeing?
I think so. And and I do want to say that like there are real trade-offs here. Like these aren't, they're really thorny issues and some things just the bigger you get, the harder they are to deal with. And
Hmm.
obviously you've got the server issues, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of other scaling problems that you see these places happening. Some of these are regulatory. The
Hmm.
bigger you get, the more eyes there are on you.
Hmm.
Some of this is it has to do with like managing a team that's growing bigger and bigger.
Hmm.
And you had this great starting core, but like they just can't run the whole company anymore. It's too big. And like you
Yeah.
just things get watered down the more levels of management you have.
Yeah.
And, there's just all these ways in which things get kind of slow and gummed up and ossified, like the bigger things become. And so, part of my answer is like, yeah, we have plans to serve all of them. And I think we've done a decent job of it so
Mhm.
far. We have plans to scale. Like, we don't see anything where like that's why we can't scale. Like that's the thing we're not going to be able to fix. Like we don't see anything like that.
Mhm.
But of course, history is littered with people who don't think they're going to slow down until they get to the top, and then all of a sudden they're just motionless.
Mhm.
And that's actually one thing I've been thinking a lot about recently is sort of, when I'm just like in the shower, it's like,
Mhm.
man, like what's my plan for like, how do I scale this business differently? Like,
Mhm.
how do you actually retain that sort of enthusiasm and dedication and like, you know, I wouldn't quite say perfectionism because you have to make lots of trade-offs, but like,
Yeah.
really caring about exactly how good the product is. How do you maintain that in a team as it grows? And I think we've done a good job of
Mhm.
that so far, but we're also sort of we haven't yet hit the number of employees where like, you know, you don't know some of them.
It's like 100 and
And
up.
so we're smaller. So, we're
Mhm.
like 20, 25 right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think somewhere around 100, it's just like,
Yeah.
no one at the company actually really knows 100 employees.
I guess
And
that leads
so,
me to my next question would be is what are the biggest hurdles you guys are facing right now?
yeah, so like right now, there's tons of hurdles, but most of them, we look at them and like, as long as we do a good job, we're going to be able to jump over them. It's not automatic that we jump over them, but we're like, especially on most of the product things, we feel pretty confident that like, as long as we keep thinking hard and working hard and being responsive, like we're going to be able to do a really good job at that. There's some hurdles though where it's a little bit more mysterious, and I think that like, probably the biggest one of those is customer acquisition. It's like, how do you, you can build the best product in the world, but if no one knows about it, it's just useless if it's an exchange. And we have lots of strategies for how to solve this, but none of these strategies are like, yeah, yeah, obviously that's going to work. They're all sort of like, yeah, that might, I could see that helping. And we keep coming up with more and cobbling them together and trying and seeing what works. But it's definitely the thing where like we just have to keep improvising, keep pushing ourselves. There's a lot of uncertainty, and like, while we're like cautiously optimistic that it's going to go well, like, we can't say like, here's the exact roadmap for how we get all the
Mhm.
customers in crypto.
Yeah, here's the blueprint. This is how we're doing it. Yeah, it's always evolving.
Right.
BitMEX's days where it was just a simple ref link, those days are gone. Like you have to think a bit
Yeah.
bigger, and that's where the battle royale's coming in a sense. I'm really excited about participating in that. By the way,
Yeah. Well,
whose idea was it? How can you tell me a bit about it?
yeah. So, and we're excited to have you. I guess for for the listeners here, what this is it's a trading competition that FTX is having in the upcoming month, and basically, there's sort of two parts of it. There's the sort of the traders, like one of which is here today, and that they're going to be basically trading on FTX through the course of the month. We'll have a leaderboard of profits. They'll be competing. There will be sort of a knockout, stage with like an eventual winner and prizes for the people who do well. And then the other half of this is that there's going to be basically, a lot of any other users of the platforms can sort of, bet on who they think is going to win. And so what you can do is you can stake the traders that you like the most. And what that means is basically you post some of your FTT, which is the exchange token, up as collateral there. You don't actually lose it, like you get it all back at the end. But
Mhm.
that's how you get your votes. And you as a staker and as a fan do well if you kind of stake the traders who do well, and traders also get bonuses if a lot of people stake them. And so that's sort of the structure of it. um and where did this come from? I think it was, like a lot of things that we do, it sort of started with like a simple sentence, and people were like, yeah, that's cool. And then it sort of evolved. And I think basically, I'm not actually sure I know exactly like, I know where I first heard about it, but I think it was James and Darren were talking, and sort of pitched the idea to me.
Mhm.
And those are sort of two of the people who have been really helping out on building out Battle Royale. And I was like, yeah, it's a really cool idea, let's do
Mhm.
it. But I actually don't think I was there when sort of they or one of them or someone I don't know who talked to them sort of came up with the idea, but it sort of came out of that. And then over the last month or so, we've been sort of reforming it. We've had a lot of Google Docs going back and forth about like what the structure should be, and then we've started building out like landing pages and stuff, content and stuff like that for it.
Thank you. I also noticed you guys partnered up with Chain Analysis the other day.
Yeah, that was, I
Yeah.
think, one of my more widely misunderstood tweets. I mean,
Oh,
not surprisingly.
can you put some clarity into it?
Yeah, well, it was, maybe all I'll say is that, we've spent a lot of time trying to understand, uh, the regulatory landscape in crypto, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really messy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a multinational enterprise. We
Mm-hmm.
have users from like 50 countries, and they all have different laws, and we're stuck here trying to figure out like, oh God, what system is not insane
Mm-hmm.
and is in compliance with all the things we need to be in compliance with, and trying to juggle all these things. And of course, I said there's 50 different legal systems, but really there's like two legal systems for crypto and 48 countries that are attempting to figure out what their laws should be. And they have like these drafts, and they're like, yeah, the government's released some memos saying how they think about it, but there's like laws aren't, and so it's a lot of trying to interpret like, it's not quite reading the tea leaves, but interpreting the like initial actions that aren't yet a fully fleshed out, regulatory regime for crypto. And to try and figure out like what the right thing to do is. And we've had a lot of calls with legal about this. We've talked with a lot of users, had a lot of discussions internally about what sort of AML KYC system is appropriate for this. And obviously, there's just this huge range in crypto, right? From like literally you never KYC anyone ever to yeah, it'll take you 2 weeks to open an account.
Mm-hmm.
And both sort of extremes there exist. And I think over time you're probably going to see those narrowing towards each other, kind of towards the middle. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of where the winds are pointing, I think, is that like everyone is starting to not agree on exactly what to do, but is starting to, figure out roughly what the range of things that make sense are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's a lot of studying what other platforms did. And I think that we came out with something at the very beginning because we had to launch, but we know it didn't serve everyone, and that there's a lot of arbitrary points to it. So anyway, we sort of finally released V2 of our AML KYC
Mm-hmm.
system. And there are a lot of things that we updated about it. One, which was sort of that the headline of that post was that we're integrating Chainalysis to make sure that none of the Bitcoin sent to the platform are coming from Kim Jong Un.
Fraudulent.
That'd be pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
So
I never thought about that.
right. I mean, as soon as I thought about it, it's like, oh God, like, wait, no, that's totally like, it makes a lot of
It's
sense. Like,
plausible.
and in fact, there's a lot of stories of like, a lot of crypto hack. Like, both you're not supposed to take stolen crypto. You're also not supposed to take North Korean crypto. And in fact, like, there's some anecdotal evidence that sometimes that's the same thing. like there's actually a decent amount of overlap there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
but so anyway, that was sort of the headline, was working with Chainalysis
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that we're not funding terrorist activities or unwittingly aiding that or anything like that.
Yeah.
But in conjunction with that, we've also rolled out sort of more tiers than we had before. We had sort of a much more like binary system before, and we've added a few more tiers there to reflect sort of the nuances of it. And so, the new system basically is we have 4 tiers, 0 through 3. So I just,
Yeah. I pulled it up
we're sort
on
of,
screen for you,
yeah.
so
So
everyone at home
y'all
can
can look
read
at
it.
it,
Yeah.
and I basically just think y'all should just, it's on our Zendesk. You just click on the account, and it's called like accounts or account registration or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You and just pull up the individual registration thing. You can see sort of the grid of like what these tiers are. But the basic answer, to just give very high level highlights, is like without KYCing. So no matter what, we look at your IP. We have to block some IPs.
Mm-hmm.
What IPs do we block? It's sort of the obvious ones. we block basically. I don't
North
remember the fullest,
Korea,
but
the United
North
States.
Korea, Iran, the United States, right?
Yeah.
Like basically United States and like terrorist countries is sort of like that's who we block. um, uh, and so we IP restrict and integrate analysis and things like that. Outside of that, there's like without doing any KYC, there's like a $1,000 lifetime withdrawal limit. That's not meant to be like congrats, you get $1,000. That's meant to be like you can test out the platform and see how you like it before having to submit any documents. But can't actually do any size. And then the first tier, which is kind of the first real tier, is sort of there's a $2,000 a day withdrawal limit, and for that you have to give a pretty basic set of information, basically just like name, email, country, and this is meant to be like low enough limits that to sort of prevent like large scale AML concerns basically.
Right.
And doing due diligence on like they're not from North Korea, like their IP is not North Korea, like things like that, without actually requiring you to like submit any kind of sensitive personal information. And so it's it's a super simple process for that. And then you sort of get to the next tier, which is sort of the real KYC tier. It's the tier where we ask for the standard bevy of documents.
Yeah, the one I gave you guys.
Yep. And that's where you ask for like your ID card, or a photo of your ID card. You gotta do another selfie. Everyone likes selfies.
Loves it.
Don't Photoshop them. We can tell when you Photoshop your selfies. It's
I
really
gotta
obvious.
ask, do you use any type of software for that?
It's a good question. We don't.
Okay.
We're looking
you
into
got
it.
The eye?
but we got the eye, and
Okay.
the reason we don't, and first of all, just because we haven't done it yet, but second of all, we're a little bit wary, and sort of the two reasons are, one, there's some thought that some breaches of customer data from other exchanges have come from third-party KYC systems.
Oh, Binance?
And right, and I don't actually know what happened. Like I don't feel confident in what happened there. But it's really hard to know from the outside. But it just means that like
Right,
we want to sort of do our due diligence on any system that has access to any of this. But the other thing is like I was trying to do KYC for an exchange, and it was an automated system, and basically it asked for my name and then like a picture of my driver's license, and it kept rejecting me, and I kept trying different things. I spent like 3 hours. I got on like chats with support after support. Nothing worked. I couldn't create an account, and literally took me hours. And finally, I figured out what it was. What it was was that the software didn't know what a middle name was really. It's just like it didn't really understand that. Yeah, and a lot of what's going on here is many of these things are designed basically for Chinese users, and middle names are like a very different concept. Yeah, exactly. And so my middle name, it thought was part of my first name. And so I finally was able to KYC when I just like in the first name field put first name space middle name, and then the software accepted it because it lined up with what it thought my ID said. But which all just goes to show. I think this is a good example of like that really turned me off. That probably lost some 25% of their customers
for sure.
That single thing. Right, because most people aren't going to spend 4 hours trying to get past that shit.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people have a middle name.
So here's a question for you. I know some people run VPNs in general, even if they are within the country limits that they're able to use it on. And I know I've had some people say to me before that, hey, my VPN accidentally kicked me into the USA and I got kicked off of BitMEX. What are like the rules or limitations that happen afterward if you do get caught on the wrong area?
Right. Yeah, that's a really good question. And obviously this is something that we're going to have to work out over time and make sure that this is reasonable for all fronts. I can tell you that, roughly our plan right now is we're going to do periodic checks. And, I don't think, the first thing that I'll say is that we're never, ever, ever going to seize your assets, unless you're a terrorist, in which case, I don't know. But like, this is not at all about losing your assets. Like the worst thing that can possibly happen is that like sort of your account's closed down and you get your assets back. So
Uncle Sam takes 5% off the top.
Right. So I just want to say that because I know again as a user it's fucking terrifying when your account gets locked and you're like, oh god, do I still have my assets? So,
Yeah.
yes, you still do. Like, we're not going to deny you those. Like, that would not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is that, like, we're not particularly interested in being punitive here. Like, we totally understand. I mean, I've run a multinational corporation with like back offices in like 4 different countries, and like you have to use VPN sometimes, and it's a fucking mess. And like,
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy to like, you know, uh, to not be able to manage all of this correctly. And so, I don't think that we're looking to be punitive here. I think that this is more like we're going to run PureX sweeps and see if it looks, reasonable. And if sort of everything seems like pretty reasonable to us, then, I think that's fine. And if not, I think it's going to be this sort of thing where, I guess, sort of a warning email type thing.
You guys sound like you definitely will work towards it, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So is this exchange your only focus, or are you working on other ventures at the moment?
So this is my primary focus
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
There is also the Alameda Research, a quantitative trading firm,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I'm spending something like 90% on FTX right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I spend some time on each, and it's I think that's an evolving thing as I figure out what the right management structures are and things like that. But I think this is like somewhere around 90% of my time.
Fair enough. And Alameda Research has been market making and providing liquidity for how long now? About.
About 2 years. I think we're
Congrats.
coming up on our 2-year anniversary pretty soon.
Seems like you've been taking intelligent steps along the way. You know what I mean?
We hope so. There's definitely been some setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely, especially in the early days. Like you look at our
Mm-hmm.
first few months of existence. I mean, it's extremely exhilarating and
Mm-hmm.
really exciting and really lucrative, but also a shit show. And
Mm-hmm.
everything was a mess, and we were trying to throw together a multinational corporate structure and quantitative trading firm and a tech stack and hiring people and dealing with like offices and internet connections and figuring out what management is all at once in like a 2 month period.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a bit of a mess.
At what, 25
And
years old?
yeah, that's right.
Nice.
And so, I think that sort of I took a big breather at, mid 2018, and sort of consolidated a lot of lessons that I'd learned. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these are management lessons. Like a lot of these are like, and again, some of these sound obvious. Some of these are like, yeah, duh. That's like literally the first thing everyone says.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I certainly fucked it up the first time. And I suspect a lot of people do it. And a lot of these things are obvious things. Like, look, if an employee is really unhappy, that's really bad. And like, there doesn't need to be any blame or culpability, but they probably shouldn't be there. Like,
Yeah, that's the
you know,
worst.
it's not
Mm-hmm.
good for either side, and it doesn't matter whose fault it is. Like, there's no point in trying to figure that out. It's just like this isn't working. Like, this is stupid for both of us. Um, and an example of a thing which, like, yeah, obviously it's probably the first thing everyone says, but I don't know. It's hard. It's not fun. That's not a happy conversation, and there's a lot of opportunity to come up with excuses for not having it, sort of before it's really drilled into your mind how crucial it is. And so, I think that's like one example. And I think maybe the other, probably bigger thing that I'll talk about is just something that so I sort of had somewhere in my mind, but hadn't really crystallized until someone gave me this advice. And I think it's super valuable, which is like, you know, say what you will, there's a ton of shit that matters. But like in the end, my job is to make sure that we as a company do what needs to get done. Like that is what matters. And like, everything else is sort of in service of that. And what that means is that like, sure, I can assign a project to someone. And maybe I think that in some sort of sense they're the right person to do it. But if that's like maybe I can think that, but like not a matter of blaming anyone. It's not a matter of figuring out who's this just isn't gelling with them. Um,
Interesting.
and as you just have to immediately be like, all right, we're pivoting here. Like
Yeah.
person B's doing it.
Yeah.
And if person B doesn't like it, you're like, all right, person C. And if they don't like it, then I do
You're
it.
all fired.
And yeah, it's just like, all right, I don't know why. Like, apparently this task really sucks.
Yeah.
Apparently everyone hates it. But it's really important, so I'm just gonna fucking do it. Like, this is, clearly the strategy of trying to get someone else to do it is not gonna work.
Yeah.
And so, that was sort of really a core thing that got drilled into my mind after we fucked up a few big things, and like I kind of tried to get someone to fix them, but like that's not enough. Like, when that fails, I've got to take responsibility and like just get it done.
Yeah, rein it in and just do it. Did you find yourself in the beginning stages biting off more than you can chew?
I think we're biting off, like, I don't quite know if it was more than we can chew. I think it's sort of like, the saltine challenge,
No,
which is like,
what is that?
so yeah, I think I don't remember the number, but it's something like eat like 6 saltines in a minute. I don't remember the number.
Okay.
It's a number that
Challenge.
sounds like, yeah, I could probably do that. It doesn't take that long to eat a saltine. What you forget is that saltines, they suck up all the water in your mouth. So by the time you've had the 4th one, there's just no water left in your mouth. You can't eat number 5. So, I think that it sort of felt kind of like that, and we were playing it really, really as far as we could go. Like, how many saltines did we bite off? Like 4.73. And how many did we have capacity for? 4.76 if we did everything perfectly. And so, I don't think it's quite that we unambiguously bit off more than we could chew, as that we bit off an amount that we could only plausibly chew if we really operated efficiently. And sometimes we did. Sometimes we fucking nailed it, and we were really rewarded for biting off a lot. But other times there's some clunk in our process, and we just kind of like did a shit job at something, and then it really showed that we were being extremely aggressive with the number of things we were doing, and that it was not going to it was not going to work if we were not going to be functioning at full efficiency. And so I think it's like not so much that like we should have been less ambitious in general necessarily, as like, we and I especially should have been way more responsive to like, okay, we've got to slow down, not all the time, but like right now, clearly we got some shit we got to fix, and because of that, we just have to scale back for the next 2 weeks. And and so I think it's more of like a sort of fine tuning process, but we definitely left ourselves not enough wiggle room.
Okay. You went back to saying that you had learned, about having a plan B, putting someone else in charge of it if it doesn't work, like adapting quickly. Where did you learn this from? Do you have any mentors that you want to mention, or anyone you look up to that maybe helped mold you along the way?
There are a bunch of people. I'm maybe not going to say their names just because I don't know how much they like publicity. I don't, I haven't run it by them, but I think there have been a few people who've taught me a lot, and I think that like, the first was sort of my boss at my prior life on Wall Street, who is he is a really, really great guy and a really great boss in just a lot of ways, and it's sort of really shown through. And just like a complete outlier. And I mean, I think it sort of ruined my conception of bosses forever in some sense, because I'm just never gonna like another boss. Like, I don't think I can ever have another boss.
There's only one like him.
I'm gonna be like, oh god, like this is so infuriating. Like, I've been trained to expect so much more. Anyway, I got really lucky to have him, and I think that he didn't so much mentor me directly as he sort of showed by example. And I think part of it was just like my style meshed well with his, but I think a lot of it was also like, he was really aggressive about taking responsibility, about like, he didn't care about blaming, but he really cared that we did the right thing. And so I think if we want to do as much good as we can in the world, like, sort of what's the most efficient way to do that? And sort of the way it started out was like, if you're going to donate money to charity, like, what's the best? Like, if you're going to donate $100, where can you do the most good for that $100? And trying to run whatever studies you can to figure out like, how do we compare these, and what's not just like a good, but like, do you really want to figure out how you can help as many people as possible for that. And so anyway, that it's a community I've been involved with for a while, and there are a few sort of senior players in it who gave me some of these pieces of advice that I think were like super, we're sort of super valuable and helped crystallize some things that were still like a little bit, not fully formed in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. It sounds to me like you're very lucky to have some of these people in your life, and they'll definitely help
Yeah.
mold your businesses in the future.
Yeah. I think it's definitely true.
Yeah, for sure. Are you close with family?
Yeah.
Are they supportive of you?
Yeah, extremely. I got pretty lucky on that front. I mean, it's not
Hmm.
shocking just that I get along with my family. A lot of people do. That's sort of how genetics work.
Okay.
That
Really?
like, you know,
Tell me more.
I'm somewhat similar to my family. That's a shocker.
Mm.
But but no, they've been extremely supportive and actually a pretty useful resource on a lot of things too.
No, that's good, man. But yeah, so that's pretty much all the questions I could muster. Ace, is there anything that you want to add to it?
No, he went through pretty much everything I would
Dude,
have probably asked him.
dude,
It was pretty
Sam.
good.
Yeah, Sam, you're a very personable person.
Oh, thank you, thank
Do
you.
you guys plan on doing some Twitch streams, live streaming? Like, what's FTX gonna do in regards to that?
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, I think this is the sort of thing where every time someone says that, I say, yeah, we should, and then I don't do it. So
Mm-hmm.
probably I should do it. And I think things have been a little bit of a madhouse recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of a manageable one, but like there's been a lot going on as basically, and a lot of this is Battle Royale coming up. Like
Right.
not just Battle Royale itself, but we're sort of using the start of it, which is the start of October, as a soft deadline for releasing a bunch of things that we've
Products.
wanted to for a while. And it's
Okay.
sort of like, by the time that starts, we want the platform to have all these things. Um, and, that sort of caused a lot of time crunch. And, just to go through some of the things that have been released so far, like obviously updated AML KYC policy, a few graph updates, one of which has been rolled out. We finally saved the time frame between refreshes. We've got more things coming in
Mm-hmm.
on that front likely as well. Um, a bunch of small UI things, a bunch of cleanup products that were sort of not the flagship thing, but like, we sort of felt like we should have. We got Moon and Doom out, obviously, which are
Yeah.
the new 10x leverage tokens, and then we've got another, three or so moderately large features that we want to roll out before the start of October. But I think that's sort of once we get to that, I'll maybe have a little bit of a breather to
Yeah.
do, more sort of more, live streaming and things like that.
Promotional rather than functionality, which should come first.
Exactly.
Yeah, I absolutely understand. And dude, thank you, by the way, for changing the at the top right where it said my name instead of account.
Oh yeah,
You saved my
yeah. No.
ass. You saved my ass
Oh
because I went live
no,
the next
absolutely.
morning. Like it would
As
have
soon
been
as you
there.
said that, no, as soon as you brought that up to me, it's like, oh God, we really shouldn't be showing your real name there. That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, so
And
you guys
so,
listened quickly. I appreciate that a lot.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, yeah. But yo, everyone at home, I'm gonna have to let you go, Sam. I know you're really busy. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on, and Ace as
Yeah,
well.
man.
Thanks,
Thank you, Sam. That
brother.
was really fun.
Yeah, for
Oh, thanks
real.
for having me. This was a blast.
Yeah, Sam. So keep doing a great work. Shout out to James. Wish you could have been here as well. And everyone at home, thank you for tuning in. I love you guys a lot. I'll be live tomorrow, and you have a great day, guys.